up to 3 months from the date when the name of the representative is entered into the public register of representatives as a provisional representative. You will recall under the representative notification framework, the RNF, right? A financial advisor needs to enter the name and other particulars of a financial advisor representative. So from the date the provisional representative name and details particulars are recorded in the register, right? Then this provisional representative has 3 months, right, to pass the relevant examinations, right? So that is under paragraph C in terms of the time period for the provisional representative to pass the relevant examinations, right, before he can be appointed as a representative to continue to provide financial advisory services on behalf of the company. So that relates to the appointment of a provisional representative, right? So I just wish to repeat that. He's given a grace of 3 months period to pass the relevant examination, right, under the CMFAS. Now we look at paragraph 5. Now this is with regard to the notice FAA 13. FAA number 13, notice on minimum entry and examination requirements for representatives of licensed financial advisors and exempt financial advisors. This is an important notice. Right? It relates to both financial advisor representatives to be appointed and provisional representative as well, as to the type of professional examination requirements under the notice. All right. Then look at paragraph 5.1, item 2 there. It applies to all licensed financial advisors, persons who are exempt from holding a license of a financial advisors, a license under those sections, and their appointed representatives. And please say it shall not apply. So in reading a financial advisor's notice, some may apply, some of the provisions do not apply, right? So therefore, you need to be a bit careful as to which notice applies to you. Now, generally, you turn to paragraph 5 under 5.1. All right. So the CMFA exams are there, the definition. So CMFA requirements means the requirement to pass the relevant modules, right, of the CMFAS examination. Right, that is the Capital Markets and Financial Advisory Services examination. Right, so a natural person, has to pass that, the relevant modules before he can provide financial advisors services or make recommendations to the clients in regard to the designated financial products. And of course, there are many circumstances under which this CMFAS exam do not apply. So one has to be very careful as to, first of all, whether it applies, it doesn't apply, and if it applies, then what modules are applicable to you in relation to what you're advising on, the type of financial advisory services you're providing. Right? So the definitions are set out there. Now, in particular, I want to draw your attention to paragraph 6 in terms of the CMFAS exam. Right? You look at the table there, it is quite self-explanatory. All right. So you look at the 1A, well, that that refers to the rules and regulations for dealing in securities, right? For members of the Singapore Exchange Securities Trading Limited, SGX-ST, right? Now 1B, rules and regulations for dealing in securities but non-SGX-ST members, right? 2A, 3, Module 3 is rules and regulations for fund management, right? 4A, rules and regulations for advisor and corporate finance. 4B, rules and regulations for advisor and corporate finance, solely debt securities. 5 is where we are at. We are talking about Module 5, rules and regulations for financial advisory services. Now 10 is rules and regulations for the rate management with product knowledge and analysis. All right. So number 1A, B, 2A, 3, 4A, 4B, and 10. These are administered by the IBM. All right. Rules and regulations under Module 5 is administered by SCI. All right. Then coming down the page, you look at product knowledge, and then you got 6A, 6A, 8, 8A, 9, and 9A. Okay. So those are the modules and the examination, right? Now, paragraph 7 talks about the CMFAS examination applied to individuals who wish to provide any of the following types of financial advisory services. It's all listed there, A1 to 5. Okay, they apply to people, right, who provide those services. Right? And all the way, next page there, you look at up all the A1, 2, 3, 4, 4A, 5. Okay, and C, arranging of any contract insurance in the respect of life policies other than corporate insurance. Alright, now 8 is worth your attention that this exam, the CMF exam, do not apply to individuals who intend to provide any of the following types of financial advisory services. So if you are dealing with A and B under paragraph 8, then you do not need to go for those particular exams, right? As the case may be. Okay. Right? Just cast your eye down to paragraph 8. Right? So if you are dealing with those items, then the CMFAS exam requirements don't apply to you. Now, paragraph 9 sets out the applicable modules under the CMFAS exam for each of the financial advisory services. Right? Just to give you a quick look, just look at A, advising others concerning, say for example, one securities, right? So if you are doing that, you need to do module 5, module 6, and module 6A, right? The first column there is in relation to rules and regulations, right? The column to the right is product knowledge and analysis, right? So again, it's divided into excluded investment products and specified investment product, right? So, yeah. So very quickly go down the page, you look at B, advising on and arranging life policies. You need to do 5, module 5, module 9, and module 9A. Okay? Because life insurance products can be an excluded investment product, is a simple one, all right? Or it can be a unlisted specified investment product if it is an investment-linked policy, all right? So therefore, if you are advising on and arranging life policies, you need to pass module 5, module 9 for simple life insurance product on or ILPs, which is unspecified, an unlisted specified investment product, and therefore you need to do 9. Okay. So this will apply as well to the provisional representative that I talked about earlier, right? So the provisional representative may have the entry requirements in terms of age and the relevant experience or the relevant academic qualifications, right? But that provisional representative may need to pass B, all right? if that person is arranging life insurance policies or ILPs. So that particular provisional representative need to pass Module 5, Module 9, and Module 9A. Okay, so that covers the entry requirements very briefly. Now then paragraph 12 there talks about the MAS Notice 117. This is the training and competency requirement under the health insurance module. Right, now this particular MAS Notice 117 is issued under the Insurance Act. Right, and shall apply to appointed representatives or financial advisors who provide financial advisory services specified in paragraph 7, 5, and C of this notice concerning any life policies. Right. So you cast your eye backwards. All right, then you look at paragraph 7. All right, 7A 5 with the life policies, and then C, right, about arranging life insurance policies other than contractual insurance. Okay. So there's an additional requirement there if you are advising on those products. All right. So then if you look at the next part there, under paragraph 13, minimum entry requirements, a person who holds himself out or acts as the appointed representative of a financial advisor must have those minimum entry qualifications, right? At least 21 years old and satisfy the minimum academic qualifications under paragraph 15 of this notice and as amended. So they have, as I said earlier before, they have elevated this as well. All right, and if you cast your eye quickly down the page at paragraph 15, see for the purpose of 13B of the notice, the minimum academic qualifications are as follow at this point in time. All right, that means GCE A-level certificate with passes in at least 3 subjects at higher 2 level and 2 subjects at higher 1 level. All right, so under 13, paragraph 13B, all right, and referring to 15, paragraph 15 below, just 15 below, 1 paragraph below, it sets out the minimum academic, academic qualifications. All right, so you need a GCE A level with passes and at least 3 subjects at higher 2 and 2 subjects at higher 1 level. Right? Or an international baccalaureate diploma qualification. C, a diploma awarded by Polytechnic in Singapore. Or any other academic qualification which is equivalent to the qualification set out in subparagraph A, B, or C. Right? So that is the minimum academic qualification. Now, for the purpose of paragraph 15D, a financial advisor shall determine if such other academic qualifications equivalent to the qualification set out in paragraph 15A, 15B, or 15C. So if in doubt, write to the MAS, and then MAS will then decide whether the qualification that a person has is equivalent to A, B, or C. Right? So that is the minimum entry requirements. Now, of course, at paragraph 16, there are certain exceptions. Right? Subject to paragraph 16A below, right? An individual who acts or holds himself out to be an appointed representative or financial advisor but does not have the academic qualifications set out in paragraph 15A, B, C, or D need not comply, underline that, need not comply with paragraph 13B, all right, if he satisfies any of the following conditions. All right, he has been providing financial advisory service immediately before 1st February 2014 and continue to do so, right, from 1st February 2014 as a representative of financial advisor or on and so forth. All right, so therefore there are some conditions there whereby a person who acts or holds himself up to be appointed representative need not pass need not have the academic qualification as spelled out at paragraph 13b. Right? So these are exceptions. People who have been in the service for some years, many years. So these are the relevant experience. Right? All right. Now 16a says the following categories of individuals who satisfy the conditions in paragraph 16 shall retake and pass the applicable modules under CMFAS exam as set out in paragraph 9 before providing any financial advisory services referred in paragraph 7 as the appointed representative, right? Then it sets out some of the details there. Right, so there are certain qualifications there, right? And then if you look at paragraph 17, then it sets out the circumstances under which the examinations do not require. All right, a representative who possesses specified qualifications and work experience, or who confines the performance of financial advisors to a limited segment of the market, is not required to pass certain modules of the CMFA exams. Right? Details of the circumstances under which the CMFA exam do not apply set out in paragraphs 18 to 24 of this notice. Okay. So here from paragraph 18 to 24, they set out the qualifications or the work experiences that will entitle you not to pass modules 6, 8, or 9, right? So the annexes are at the back, 1A, 3A, and 4A. Right? So I think if you cast your eye down the page, then you will find out whether you are or you are not required. Right? To take the CMFAS examination. Right? Now then, if you turn the page, then you look at paragraph 24. It is similar for the purpose of paragraph 17 of this particular notice. Right? If you look at paragraph 17, right, the same thing about the circumstances under which the CMFAS examination do not apply, right? Who confines the performance of financial advisory in respect of the following, right? And you can see there, any capital markets product, expert investor, B, creditor investor, institutional investor, and the like. All right. Like number 5 there, any person outside Singapore, not a citizen, not PR, not dependent, right? So there are some exceptions there in regard to the circumstances, right? Where a representative may not need to pass the CMFAS examination, right? And similarly, paragraph 20 is a similar idea, shall not apply to an individual, right, who has attained qualification listed in Annex 1, 2, 3, or 4 before July 2005. Okay, so there are a lot of qualifications there, so you need to go through it on your own to see whether the examinations apply to you or do not apply to you. Right? You look at paragraph 24 very quickly. The idea is the same, right? The provisions under this particular notice, FAN 13, they are the same, right? Now, paragraph 25 very quickly talks about the retaking of module 5. Right? So, yeah. Again, it provides a lot of materials for you to be able to find out for yourself where and when and how you need to retake your module 5. Because module 5 is on rules and regulations on financial advisory services. And the rules and regulations have got updated every now and then. So, yeah. Okay. And paragraph 26 also says that paragraph 25 of this notice shall not apply to an individual who, at the particular date or year, has completed a non-examinable module. Underline the word non-examinable module, course on module 5 by 17 August 2002. Now, you will recall that this act came into effect 2002, right? So during the transition period, right, there is a non-examinable course where the existing representatives, right, they would attend, if I remember correctly, a 3-hour, right, a non-examinable course on module 5. And and of course there's a time frame involved as well. Right? Like for example, B, if he is or was a representative of an exempt financial advisor, okay, who had commenced the provision of execution-related advice within 12 months from that date, 18 February 2014, and has completed a non-examinable course on module 5 within 6 months from the date of commencement of the activity, unless such individual has ceased the provision of execution-related advice for an exempt financial advisor for a period exceeding 3 years. Right? So if there's no continuing experience working for a period of 3 years, then you have to retake the module 5. Right? So it is a little bit complex and complicated in a way. So one has to be careful to look at it to see whether you are required to sit for the relevant modules, whether it's module 5 or any of the other modules, right? Before you can practice your trade, as it were. Okay. Now, so that covers the details of the CMFA examination and whether the relevant examinations under the CMFAS applies to you or not, right? Now, very quickly, then, paragraph 27, obligations of a financial advisor. So, a financial advisor shall maintain a register. You will notice there are many registers to be maintained, stating that whether its representative is subject to the CMFAS examination requirement or the non-examinable courses where applicable, relevant to the type of financial advisory services provided by the representative. Right? This financial advisor should enter into the register the type of financial advisory services conducted by its representative. Right? So the type, the name, the type, and the date on which its representatives completed the CMFA exam or non-examinable courses where applicable. And in respect of such representative who is not required to pass certain modules of the CMFA examination under this notice, to state the details thereof. Alright, so apart from you as a financial advisor representative, whether appointed or provisional, right, or otherwise yet to be appointed, the financial advisor corporation itself has this duty to maintain a register, right, to make sure that you are duly qualified, not only in terms of the entry requirements, but also in terms of the examination requirements under the notice FAA number 13. Okay. And 28 is quite clear. In addition, a financial advisor shall ensure that its representative comply with the examination requirements of this notice. All right. So I'm sure if you're working for a financial advisor, then the compliance officer or the legal officer would chase you to make sure that you pass the relevant examinations. A financial advisor shall not allow its representative who is subject to this CMFA examination requirements to commence any type of financial advisory services unless he has passed the applicable modules of the CMFAS exam or completed the relevant non-examinable course where applicable. So therefore, there are no two ways about it, right? So you have to pass the relevant examination if you want to be appointed to be a representative. And the financial advisor has this duty to make sure that you are duly qualified. Otherwise, the financial advisor will not allow you to practice your trade. Okay? So that is in regard to Act AA number 13 on the examination requirements. Right? Then at paragraph 30, we are looking at continuing professional development requirements. Right? So to ensure that you are competent and capable, right? To ensure that you are continue to be competent and capable and updated, and to be a fit and proper person, right? There is this requirement for a appointed representative to undergo the continuing professional development program, right? And such continuing development program must be structured, right? It must be professional. And this is where they give participants the CPD training hours. CPD meaning continuing professional development hours. CPD, right? And section 30A there talks about it. All right, it must be relevant to your type of financial advisory services. All right, and you must obtain and retain relevant supporting documents. Right, that a representative has completed the minimum hours of structured CPD. And every principal, meaning the financial advisor, must review and follow up on each of its appointed representatives' structured CPD on an annual basis. All right, on a yearly basis, you must go for your CPD hours training, and you must do it within a year. Right? And of course, there must be relevant evidence that you've attended such course or courses. Right? Now, 30C provide the structured CPD training to include lectures, conferences, workshops, courses, product seminars prior to the launch of new products, and e-learning courses. Right? All this will contribute to competency, capability, and importantly, that you are fit and proper person, right, to continue to be appointed as a representative of a financial advisor. Right? Now, look at paragraph 31. They set out here it sets out the minimum hours of structured CBD training required and the calculation of structured CBD training hours. Right? You can see for yourself that this is very structured, very professional, and they are set up very clearly. Alright, so if you do not meet the CPD hours, then you may have problems with the financial advisor. Right? So let me just read to you very quickly paragraph 31. Now, subject to paragraph 31DB, on the next page, the individual who acts or holds himself out to be appointed representative and provides only one type of financial advisory services must complete by the end of every calendar year. All right, annual basis. The minimum number of training hours in ethics, right, or rules and regulations, or both. Right? So ethics or rules and regulations, or both. As the case may be, set out in the second column of table A. We'll go to that later on for that type of financial advisory services. And the minimum number of training hours set out in the third column of table A for that type of financial advisory services. And B, 2 or more types of financial advisory service must complete by the end of every calendar year. Similarly, minimum number of training hours in ethics or rules, and the higher of the minimum number of training hours set out in the third column of table A for those types of services. Right, so the table that sets out the number of CPD hours and supplementary CPD hours that a financial advisor representative need to complete within a year. Alright, now I just want you to cast your eye down the table A, and it's self-explanatory as to how many hours you require in terms of the core CPD hours under column 2, And under column 3, the supplementary CPD hours. Right? Just look at paragraph 1 under table A. So the types of financial advisory service is set out there. Right? And then second column says 6 training hours in respect of ethics, all rules and regulations, or both. Right? And then the third column, the supplementary hours are 10. Right? Then across the page there you see 2, similarly. Right? Then 3, arranging life insurance, and then 4, and then 5. Right? Right? From 4 there you see your supplementary CPD hours is 24 hours. Right? You need to clock 24 hours. Right? Okay? So that is the table that you need to take a look at. And then paragraph 31A, 31B set out further details in terms of how the hours are calculated. And 31E gives you more details as to how you calculate your supplementary CPD hours or the prorated supplementary CPD hours. Alright? Alright, so 31E talks about the MediShield Life scheme and so forth. Alright, so you cast your eye down the page, then those are the calculations and what must be done. Alright, look at paragraph 32. Alright, the principal must do all that. Calculate the actual number, the total number of completed structured CPD training hours for each of his appointed representatives as at the end of each calendar year, and maintain a register as well. Right? So it is very professionally done. That there is a system. There's a controlling mechanism there, and look at 32A. There's a register as well for each of the appointed representatives in terms of the completed structured CPD training hours for each calendar year. And the financial advisor or the principal must maintain this register for a period not less than 5 years from the end of the calendar year in which the representative is appointed by the principal. Alright, so it is very professional and it has been done properly. Alright, very quickly cast your eye down the page to paragraph 33. Alright, they also, this particular notice, FN 13, also provide the circumstances under which the CPD requirements do not apply. Alright, so there are some exceptions to it as usual, and you need to look at the exceptions. Right? And paragraph 38 there, you have some transitional arrangements for implementation of the security scheme, so to be appointed as a representative of a financial advisor. Right? Now, look at paragraph 31. They set out here it sets out the minimum hours of structured CPD training required and the calculation of structured CPD training hours. Right? You can see for yourself that this is very structured, very professional, and they are set up very clearly. Alright, so if you do not meet the CPD hours, then you may have problems with the financial advisor. Right? So let me just read to you very quickly paragraph 31. Now, subject to paragraph 31DB, on the next page, the individual who acts or holds himself out to be appointed representative and provides only one type of financial advisory services must complete by the end of every calendar year. All right, annual basis. The minimum number of training hours in ethics, right, or rules and regulations, or both. Right? So ethics or rules and regulations, or both. As the case may be, set out in the second column of table A. We'll go to that later on for that type of financial advisory services. And the minimum number of training hours set out in the third column of table A for that type of financial advisory services. And B, 2 or more types of financial advisory service must complete by the end of every calendar year. Similarly, minimum number of training hours in ethics or rules and the higher of the minimum number of trading hours set out in the third column of table A for those types of services. Right, so the table that sets out the number of CPD hours and supplementary CPD hours that a financial advisor representative need to complete within a year. All right, now I just want you to cast your eye down the table A, and it's self-explanatory as to how many hours you require in terms of the core CPD hours under column 2, and under column 3 the supplementary CPD hours. Right? Just look at paragraph 1 under table A. So the types of financial advisory service is set out there. Right? And then second column says 6 training hours in respect of ethics, all rules and regulations, or both. Right? And then the third column, the supplementary hours are 10. Right? Then across the page there you see 2, similarly. Right? Then 3, arranging life insurance, and a 4, and then 5. Right? Right? From 4 there you see your supplementary CPD hours is 24 hours. Right? You need to clock 24 hours. Okay, so that is the table that you need to take a look at. And then paragraph 31A, 31B set out further details in terms of how the hours are calculated. And 31E gives you more details as to how you calculate your supplementary CPD hours or the prorated supplementary CPD hours. Right? Right? So 31E talks about the MediShield Life scheme and so forth. Right? Alright, so you cast your eye down the page, then those are the calculations and what must be done. Alright, look at paragraph 32. Alright, the principal must do all that. Calculate the actual number, the total number of completed structured CPD training hours for each of his appointed representatives as at the end of each calendar year, and maintain a register as well. Right? So it is very professionally done. That there is a system. There's a controlling mechanism there, and look at 32A. There's a register as well for each of the appointed representatives in terms of the completed structured CPD training hours for each calendar year, and the financial advisor or the principal must maintain this register for a period of not less than 5 years from the end of the calendar year in which the representative is appointed by the principal. Right, so it is very professional and it has to be done properly. Right, very quickly cast your eye down the page to paragraph 33. Alright, this particular notice, FN 13, also provide the circumstances under which the CPD requirements do not apply. Right, so there are some exceptions to it as usual, and you need to look at the exceptions. Right, and paragraph 38 there, you have some transitional arrangements for implementation of the security scheme. So right, now in respect of the CMFAS examination, you will notice that there are exceptions and circumstances whether the CMFAS applies or not. Right, now in addition to that, if you look at paragraph 38, all right, now this is the transitional arrangement for implementation of the Securities and Futures Amendment Act 21-7. Now it says representatives conducting the regulated activity of advising others concerning over-the-counter derivatives contracts. So if you are the representative conducting such regulated activity, all right, in advising others concerning over-the-counter, the OTC derivatives contracts, paragraph 38 reads, a person is treated as having satisfied paragraph 9 in respect of the regulated activity of advising others concerning over-the-counter derivatives contracts if all of the following conditions are satisfied. Paragraph 9 refers to the applicability of the modules under the CMFAX examination. Alright, so if you are a representative conducting that activity, and if you satisfy the conditions under A, B, C, then you have satisfied paragraph 9, right? At any time during the period up to 1 year immediately prior to 8 October 2018. Alright, you have carried out any activity which would have amounted to acting as a representative in respect of advising others concerning over-the-counter derivatives contract. Alright, you have carried out the regulated activity of advising others concerning the over-the-counter derivatives on or after 8 October, the date, 8 October 2018. If you cease to carry out activity mentioned in subparagraph A sometime the date of cessation during the period stipulated in the subparagraph A and thereafter commence carrying out the activity mentioned in paragraph B, i.e. the date of recommencement, the time that elapsed between the date of cessation, the latest date of cessation, and the date of recommencement does not exceed a continuous period of 1 year. So, if a representative satisfies A, B, C, then you are deemed to the transition arrangement applies. Right? Now, I want you to then look at paragraph 41 quickly. Right? Paragraph 41. Now, any individual relying on paragraph 38 is required to pass or retake and pass, as the case may be, the relevant CMFAS rules and regulations module set out in paragraph 9 if, note this, if the individual ceases carrying out the regulated activity of advising others concerning over-the-counter derivatives contracts for a continuous period of more than 1 year on or after 8 October 2019. Right? That is in terms of a person, a representative, or a person or an individual relying on paragraph 38. Right? I've read to you 38. That is a transitional arrangement in terms of representative providing over-the-counter derivatives contracts. Alright? So if you satisfy those conditions, you're okay. Alright? But if you rely on that paragraph, and you have stopped and you have ceased carrying out the activity for a continuous period of more than 1 year on or after 8 October 2018, then you have to retake the module and pass it. Right? Now, similarly, if you look at paragraph 39, now this is in respect of representatives conducting the regulated activity of advising others concerning spot foreign exchange contracts for the purposes of leveraged foreign exchange trading. Now, 38 refers to over-the-counter derivatives contracts. Paragraph 39 refers to spot foreign exchange contracts for the purposes of leveraged foreign exchange trading. Alright? So I read to you again, paragraph 39 is similar to 38. A person is treated as having satisfied paragraph 9. That means the examination module, the applicable modules in respect of that particular product. Alright, and the conditions are A, similar, up to 1 year immediately prior to 8 October. Alright, and similarly B and similarly C. Alright, so the period of time does not exceed a continuous period of 1 year. Alright, if you rely on that one, all right, then 42 applies. All right? 42 applies, and 42 reads, if an individual rely on paragraph 39, right, that individual is required to pass or retake and pass, as the case may be, the relevant MAS rules and regulations, whatever modules that apply to you under leverage foreign exchange trading, right? If the individual ceases, right, to carry out the regulated activity, all right, for a continuous period of more than 1 year on or after 8 October 2018, right? So those are the transition provisions under paragraph 38 and 39. And if you rely on 30 and 39, then you have to look at 41, all right, with regard to paragraph 38, and 42 with regard to paragraph 39, whether or not that person need to retake and pass the relevant modules, all right, on rules and regulations under the CMFAS, right? All right. So if you cast your eye back to paragraph 9, take the page back to paragraph 9, you will see the modules that are required, all right? All right, if you look at paragraph 9 very quickly, you will see the paragraph 9, you will see that in terms of over-the-counter derivatives, all right, the modules related to over-the-counter derivatives contracts are Module 5 and Module 6A, right? You are talking about foreign exchange, leveraged foreign exchange trading. That's under A4, and that will be Module 5 and also Module 6A, right? Right. So therefore, there are the two transitional arrangements, right? But if you rely on that and you stop acting for more than a year, then you're going to retake the relevant modules. Right. And at paragraph 43, you will note retaking of product knowledge modules as well. Right. So that's in terms of the two issues, either the rules and regulations module under paragraph 41, 42, and the product knowledge modules in terms of 43 and 44. Right? So those are the requirements if you rely on paragraph 38 and paragraph 39, right, concerning OTC, derivatives contracts, and spot foreign exchange contracts for the purposes of leverage foreign exchange trading. Now with that, I conclude FAA N13. Right. Now let's move on quickly to para 6 of chapter 5. Now this is a notice on reporting of misconduct of representatives by financial advisors. This is under notice number FAA N1414. Right? And 6.2 reads, apply to all licensed financial advisors and persons who are exempt from holding a financial advisor's license, and sets out the responsibilities, number 1, and 2, reporting requirements of financial advisors for the misconduct of the representatives. As we have mentioned earlier, the financial advisors are responsible for the conduct of their representatives, right? Now, quickly then look at B, the report of misconduct of representatives. All right, so what are the types of misconduct that the financial advisor has to report to the MAS? All right. So very quickly, you cast your eye down the page again, 6.4. A, acts involving fraud, dishonesty, or other offences of a similar nature. Right, and so on, cheating, dishonesty, forgery, misappropriation of money, criminal breach of trust. Now, these are very serious offences and a very serious type of misconduct. And for such cases, the financial advisor is expected to make a police report, right, and then submit to the MAS a copy of the police report together with information where available, relating, for example, to the name of the police officer relating the case, who is the investigation officer, who is the IO, and an update of the progress of the police investigation and the result of the criminal proceedings, if any. Right. So if the IO decided to refer the matter to the AGC, the Attorney General Chambers, and to prosecute the particular person, right, then you need to update the MAS. Right? Now, if a person or a representative commits those offences, those very serious offences, fraud, dishonesty, and the financial advisor has not lodged a police report, then this financial advisor should notify the MAS as to why. All right? As to his decision, why it did not make a report to the police. So that is under 6.4a, very, very serious offences involving dishonesty and fraud. Right? Then this particular notice, the FAAN 14, under 6.4b, talks about acts involving inappropriate advice. Now this is more common, I guess. All right, poor advice, all right, product not suitable for the client, misrepresentation, right, or inadequate disclosure of information. Right? So where the representative make a recommendation to a client without due consideration to his investment objectives, financial situation, or particular needs. Right? And make a deceptive, false, or misleading statement to a client, or failure to disclose to a client all material information relating to any designated investment product recommended by him, as required under FA Notice Number 3. All right, you recall that FA Notice Number 3 requires product information to client. Full disclosure, clear, adequate, not misleading, not false. Those are the standards which we have mentioned earlier, right? So if under B, representative commits those offences, right, then again you need to make a report to the MAS, okay? So acts involving inappropriate advice, misrepresentation, inadequate disclosure of information. That means the representative falls short, right? The representative failed to comply with the notice FAA number 3. Now, C, failure to satisfy the guideline on fit and proper criteria. Now, this is a guideline, all right, where its representatives fail to satisfy the fit and proper tests under the FSG GO1 or the FSG GO1. Right? That means in terms of capability, in terms of competency, training, financial soundness, and so on. All right. So, I mean, for example, in terms of training, all right, a representative did not go for the CPD hours or train. All right. But in this regard, I think this is in a way not such a serious misbehavior as that, misconduct as that. All right. So the financial advisor need not make such a report if a representative fails to clock his CPD hours, although consequences may follow by the financial advisor representative. All right. So fit and proper criteria will refer to whether the financial advisor representative is financially sound. All right. If the financial advisor representative became a bankrupt, for example, then there's a need to report this misconduct. Right? So we will come to the fit and proper criteria later on in terms of competence, capability, financial soundness, and things like that. Okay. Then D, say other misconduct other than this set out in paragraph A to C. All right. So the definition there is not exclusive. All right. It is just some sort of a guideline to the financial advisor corporation. All right. Now, so if you look at D, non-compliance with any regulatory requirement relating to the provision of any financial advisor service under the FA. So it's non-compliance with any regulatory requirement. All right, as we have said before, notices, they have the force of law, they have legal effect. So when there's a regulatory, I emphasize the regulatory requirement, and there's no compliance, the financial advisor representative does not comply, then it may constitute a misconduct that needs reporting. Or a serious breach of the financial advisor's internal policy or code of conduct, which will render the representative liable to demotion, suspension, or termination of employment, or any other such arrangement with the financial advisor. Now, this has a bearing again on the fit and proper criteria issue. Right? So, if a financial advisor representative, all right, commits either A, B, C, or D, then there's a need to report. There's a need to make a report on such misconduct. Now, 6.5 says, a financial advisor shall report to the MAS in a manner as specified in 6.6 below any type of misconduct set out in paragraph 6.4 above, which we have gone through, that is committed by any of its representative, underline this point, who has ceased to be a representative of the financial advisor before the misconduct was discovered or before disciplinary action has been decided upon or taken. Right? What this means is that financial advisor representative has committed, all right, a misconduct as set out under 6.4a to D. All right? But this financial advisor representative resigned. All right? And then resigned and left the company. All right? There's still a need to do a reporting. Right? Who has ceased to be a representative before the misconduct was discovered. So he left the company, and then after that, he came to light such misconduct, or before any disciplinary action can be mounted against this particular representative, right, there's also a need to report. Right? So 6.5 is quite clear. A financial advisor shall also report. Shall also report. Right? So, in other words, the financial advisor representative cannot get away with any misconduct. Right? There should be a report so that the MAS is aware of this particular person. Right? Now, 6.6, where misconduct has been committed for which the financial advisor is required to report to the MAS in accordance to 6.4, paragraph 6.4 or 6.5 above, the financial advisor shall submit to the MAS the relevant information in the form as set in Appendix 5A. Underline that one, not later than 14 days. So there's also a timeline. There's also a deadline for the financial advisor to comply with. It is not later than 14 days after the discovery of the misconduct. Right? The misconduct report shall be lodged by the financial advisor through MASNet. Now, I want you to take a look at Appendix 5A. Okay, very quickly turn to the Appendix 5A at the back of this particular chapter 5. Okay. Now, I hope you are with me on that page at Appendix 5A. Okay, so now you look at 5A, Appendix 5A. It says there on the top right-hand corner, for information only. Now, this is the report of misconduct of representative. Alright, this misconduct report has been submitted under this particular notice, FNN 14, under the Act. And you can see for yourself there in identification details. Alright, 1.1, name, okay. 1.2, the representative number. Alright. If the representative does not have a representative number, then complete 1.3, date of birth, gender, nationality, and so on. Okay, those are the personal particulars of the representative concerned. And then 2, information on misconduct. Right? It is quite the ticking of the boxes thing. Please select the types of misconduct that's been committed by the representative, and you may select more than one. So as you can see there, it is under A, B, C, or D. Right? The most serious one is A, the first box, acts involving fraud, dishonesty, or other offences of a similar nature, or failure to satisfy the guidelines on fit and proper criteria. We'll go into that in detail later on, meaning of fit and proper. And these are guidelines. And then 3, giving inappropriate advice or misrepresentation or failure to make full disclosure, frank and full disclosure of information to the client, product information, and other types of misconduct. Right? And then 2.2 says a period of misconduct. And here be as precise as possible. All right, because this may be used as evidence in prosecuting the particular person if necessary. All right. Then 2.3, you can say, has the company conducted investigation, yes or no? If yes, then give your company's investigation report. All right, and then any disciplinary action taken against the particular representative concerned, right? Yes, then you give 2.4, no, or not applicable, right? Then 2.4, summary of the misconduct. A, circumstances where the misconduct was discovered, right? Number of clients affected, the amount of money, whether the individual is cooperative to investigation, type of disciplinary action taken. So all this has a bearing. It has a bearing if this particular representative should be charged in court, right? For any such misconduct, especially under A, the dishonesty, the fraudulent conduct, and all that, all right? And then declaration, and then confirmation. All right, that is under the report of misconduct of representative, right? Signature of the person and the date. All right. Now cast your eye across the page there. Appendix 5B is another report, but it's an update on report of misconduct of representative. Now I haven't come to that yet, but just since we're on this page, we will take a look at it. Right? Similar details are required. So this is an update on report on the misconduct of a particular representative, right? Again, you can see that is similar to the first report. Right? Okay, so similar. Now then, if you look at Appendix 5C, all right, I'm jumping the gun here. Now, this is a declaration of new return of misconduct of representatives. Now, in the course of the year, if there's no misconduct at all in the financial advisor, then there's a need also to submit this report. Okay, that there's no misconduct. Right? And then paragraph 1, you can see that very clearly, declaration, I hereby declare that, the principal, that means the name of the financial advisor, all right, has no misconduct for which is required to report under paragraph 6 of the notice under FAN 16, notice on reporting of misconduct represented by financial advisor for the calendar year ended 31st December. All right. So even if there's no misconduct at all, you need to do this declaration. All right. The financial advisor has to do this declaration, and there's also a confirmation. All right. So the financial advisor is aware that pursuant to that section 86.1, 86.3, and so on. All right. So you need to make the declaration, and at the bottom of that declaration, your reporting officer, destination, signature, and date. Now, so you will see that there are 3 forms for a financial advisor, corporation, or a financial advisor to use in regard to this, in compliance with this notice under FAN 14 to report misconduct of its representatives. All right. So very quickly now, let's come back to paragraph 6.6, right? Where it mentioned about the various, the 3 kinds of reports that you need to do. Now, importantly, I want to draw your attention to 6.7. Right? Look at 6.7. All right, a financial advisor should ensure that appointed representatives meet continuing education requirements as part of the fit and proper requirements. Right? That is under competency and capability. However, as I've said earlier, the financial advisor is not required, right? Not required, I repeat that, to lodge a misconduct report against representative for failing to meet the continuing education requirements. Right? So although it is part of the fit and proper criteria, but for failing to meet the CPD hours, so there's no need for the financial advisor to make a misconduct report. Of course, like I've said, it will have a bearing on whether that person is fit and proper in terms of yeah. That's why I believe that the compliance officer or the legal officer will ensure that all its representatives comply with the CPD hours, right? But anyway, there's this provision that there's no need to make the misconduct report. Okay. Now, paragraph C is, I've done that with you already. All right. So in addition to the misconduct report, all right, so you need to update. Where financial advisor has not concluded the investigation or has not taken any disciplinary action against the rep concerned, the financial advisor shall submit to the MAS a report in the form set out in 5B, which we have looked at, to provide an update of the case as and when there's any significant development. And the updated report shall be lodged by the financial advisor through MASNet. Alright? So there is this need to update if necessary. And paragraph D 6.9 says that when there's no misconduct for which the financial advisor is required to report, so it's under this particular notice, right? Then similarly, you need to submit to the MAS, the financial advisor need to submit to the MAS a declaration form, as we have seen in Appendix 5C, not later than 14 days after December of that calendar year. Right? So this is the new declaration, must be lodged not later than 14 days after 31st December. Alright, and then it shall be lodged through MASNet. Okay, so there's that. And investigation 610 for the purpose of complying with the requirements set out under paragraph 6.4. Then a financial advisor is expected to conduct internal investigations and keep proper records of the following. Right, summary of the facts of the case, interview with the relevant parties, right, the representative, the client, the supervisor, documentary evidence of the alleged misconduct, right, investigators' assessment and recommendation, and disciplinary action if any. Right. Right, so if there's such misconduct committed by a representative, then the financial advisor has this duty to do its own investigation, and after that to furnish the findings, right, to the MAS. Right, now F talk about disciplinary action. As I've said before, a financial advisor is responsible for the conduct of his representatives, right? So therefore, if there's any misconduct, and after investigations, it determines that the representative concerned has committed the misconduct, then disciplinary action should be taken against them. But of course, there is of course this issue of consistency, and application of disciplinary action must be consistent and properly and formally done, right? And 6.13 talks about the types of disciplinary action, not limited to one. You can have one or more depending on the case. A, suspension, restitution and return of the misappropriated money, fine, formal warning, demotion, or even termination, right? And 6.14 talks about the internal process, all right, in terms of addressing any appeals, If the representative feels that he or she is aggrieved by the findings or the disciplinary action taken against him or her, then there must be a process for which the representative can make an appeal. Right? Right? So under G, their use of information in the report, the MAS may take into account any information contained in any report that is submitted by the financial advisor under this notice in exercising its powers or performing its functions under the FAA. Now, what this means is that if the report is serious, so MAS then can exercise all its powers under the Financial Advisors Act. Either to revoke the license of the financial advisor representative, to suspend the license, or to suspend the appointed representative or the provisional representative, or to issue a prohibition order. Right. So once the MAS can use the information in the report, right, to exercise its powers, to further in a way discipline the particular financial advisor representative, right? Like suspension, revocation, or prohibition order. Okay, so that covers FAA and 14 very quickly. Now, still on chapter 5. Now we move on to the next notice, which is notice FAA number 1515. Now, this is the notice relating to the cancellation period for unlisted debentures. All right. So I hope you know what are debentures. It is a debt instrument intended to raise funds with periodic payment of interest, right? Well, such debentures are unlisted, meaning to say you can't buy them or sell them on the market. Right? So unlisted debentures. All right. So in terms of this FAA notice number 15, it sets out the obligations of the persons specified below in relation to the cancellation period of an unlisted debenture when they sell, whether direct or indirect, an unlisted debenture to a client. Okay. Now, this notice comes into effect on 1 May 2011. Now, for a definition of the debenture, you have to refer to Section 2.1 of the Securities and Futures Act. All right. And for the relevant person means any person specified in paragraph 4 of this particular notice. All right. Now, the applications of this notice, as before, like I've said earlier, when you look at a notice, you must see whether the notice apply or not, all right, or whether there are any exceptions to the application to the notice, or the circumstances under which the notice provisions may not apply. So you have to be careful when you read notice provisions. Right? Now, for example, 7.3 here says clearly, this notice shall apply to holders of financial advisor's license, exempt financial advisor license, representative of financial advisors, and persons who are exempted, and representative of persons who are exempted under that regulation. I mean, we have gone through enough of the notices for you to be aware of the applications of notices. And look at 7.4, right? Under 7.4, what does it say? This notice does not apply to the following: unlisted debentures with tenures of 3 months or less. All right, it applies to certain people, right? Certain licensees, certain representatives, as at 7.3. But it also does not apply. It does not apply to unlisted debentures with tenures of 3 months or shorter. That means very short-term debentures, right? 1 month, 2 months, right? Even 3 months. All right. Unlisted debentures which are exempt from prospectus requirements under the Securities and Futures Act. All right. One has to refer back to the Securities and Futures Act, and there are certain unlisted debentures which do not need prospectus requirements. Right? And purchases of unlisted debentures where the client is not an individual. All right. If the purchasers are corporations, right? So this notice does not apply. Okay, just take note of that. 7.3 and 7.4. Okay. Now, sale of unlisted debentures. A relevant person shall not sell to a client any unlisted debenture which does not contain a right given by the issuer to cancel the agreement to purchase such debenture. So there's a prohibition there, right? I read that again. A relevant person shall not sell directly or indirectly to a client any unlisted debenture which does not contain a right given by the issuer to cancel the agreement to purchase the such debenture. Right? So there's a cancellation provision there. 7.6, in the sale, all right, of any unlisted debenture to a client, a relevant person shall conduct due diligence on issuers of such unlisted debentures. All right, so the relevant person in selling it shall conduct due diligence to ensure that the issuers have put in steps and processes that will satisfy this particular guideline on the cancellation period for unlisted debentures. Now, this is under SA, the Security and Futures Act 13G12. Okay? So there are some provisions, some restrictions in terms of selling of these unlisted debentures. So 7.7 says that when selling unlisted debenture, the relevant person shall disclose and explain to the client the time frame for the client to reconsider his purchase of unlisted debenture, right? And the terms and procedures for exercising his right to cancel his purchases, and that the risk of any fall in the value of the unlisted debentures during the cancellation period will have to be borne by the client. All right. Again, the purpose is similar. It's quite the same. Is to protect the investors, so that the investors is able to cancel the purchase of unlisted debentures. Right? The right of cancellation and the period for cancellation. Okay, so that covers that part. Okay. So there's a disclosure of the cancellation period. All right. Now the last notice, I think under Chapter 5, is this very long one, which is the under paragraph 8. All right, this is the notice on the requirements for the remuneration framework for representative and supervisors. This is the balanced scorecard framework and the independent sales audit unit under notice FAA number 20. Right. Now this came out, the issue date for this particular FAA N20 is 31st December 2015. All right. Now, this is quite a long notice, and there's a lot of calculations and the methodology there, which I do not think I want to go into the details. But it suffices for me to walk you through to understand the spirit and certain important key points relating to this particular notice. Right, so now if you look at paragraph 1.2, right, this notice applies to all licensed financial advisors and exempt financial advisors, right, including the banks and the merchant banks and the insurance companies and all that, the exempt financial advisors, other than a financial advisor in respect of activities, recommendations, or transactions set out under Regulation 34A of the Financial Advisors Regulations, right? So Section 34A says that when you refer to Section 34A of the Financial Advisors Regulation, all right, it says that Section 38 and 39 of the FAA do not apply. All right, so there are certain groups of people where this notice may not apply. relating to, for example, maybe banks and merchant banks and companies exempted under 27A from complying with Section 23, subsection 4 of the FAA, where the financial advisor or the exempt financial advisor solely advises others by issuing or promulgating research analysis or research reports in electronic or print form concerning investment products. Right? It is also in relation to the financial advisory services given to accredited investors, expert investors, and institutional investors, and not an individual. Right? So therefore, there are certain parties where this notice may not apply. And you need to have a look at you look at Regulation 34A of the Financial Advisors Regulations, right, to ascertain whether it applies or not. Right? So Section 34A, Regulation 34A is an important provision for you to look at when you're reading this particular notice FAAN 20 regarding the Balanced Scorecard Framework. Right? For example, if you're talking about life policies, which are sold as an ancillary product, with a simple payment basis, for insurance cover, policies that cover outstanding loans such as personal loans or car loans or credit card, all right, then probably then this will not apply, right? Or you are advising businesses, making recommendations with respect to selling or purchasing group life policies, all right. So that comes under Section 34A, Regulation 34A of the Financial Advisors Regulations. So I suggest that you take a look at 34A to establish the ambit, the scope under which this particular notice may not apply. Right? Okay. Now let's move on, and then the definitions are pretty important in this regard. All right. So if you look quickly at the infraction, what does it mean? So the word infraction means a failure by a representative to meet any of the non-sales key performance indicators. All right. Non-sales key performance indicators. All right. Now this notice came into effect primarily to address the issues of switching of products, churning of products, all right, to the detriment of the client, to the detriment of the investor, all right. So because oftentimes the financial advisor or the financial advisor representatives, they are concerned with targets, right? They are concerning with achieving performance targets, right? And as a result of which there can be a lot of alleged malpractices like overselling, mis-selling, churning is a key one. I'll repeat that. It has become more or less, inverted commas, a dirty word as it is. When you churn the products, you are actually making more commission for yourself, or the company is making more money, and not to the to the best interests of the client, or whether the products are suitable to the client. All right. So that is the whole issue here regarding non-sales key performance indicators, in order to try and rein in, all right, under ethical practices, if I may use that word, all right, where people in the industry start churning products and asking clients to switch products unnecessarily. Okay, although there is a notice regarding switching of products. All right, so infraction means a failure of the representative to meet any of the non-sales key performance targets. Right? And this, I want to pause here for a little while. And you skip a line from there, you'll see non-sales key performance indicators in relation to a representative, right? To a financial advisor representative, means the principal sets out in Annex 1 to this notice that the representative has to make. Now, very quickly, I want you to turn to Annex 1, all right, which is at the end of this particular chapter 5, right? So take your time and turn to Annex 1 to look at non-sales KPIs. Now, I hope you're with me on the same page. Under Annex 1, all right, turn to Annex 1 of this chapter, somewhere at the back of the chapter 5. All right, so under Annex 1, you see non-sales key performance indicators. All right, the non-KPI 1 is understanding a client's needs. A representative must make reasonable steps, all right, collect as much information as possible, understand the circumstances and needs of the client. All right, this is the fact-find process to understand what the client needs. Right? In determining if a representative has taken reasonable steps to conduct sufficient fact-find to understand the needs and circumstances of the client, a financial advisor should take into account the following list of factors which are non-exclusive. All right? Whether the representative has taken steps to collect all pertinent information. This is the know your client thing that we have talked about earlier. All right, collect as much information as possible, relevant information, and document this information from the fact-find process. All right, and whether the representative conducted this fact-find with the client before or after giving advice, or making a recommendation, or both, as the case may be. All right, and whether the representative influenced the client's inputs or responses during the fact-find. All right, so there's this issue of influence, all right, because the representative almost always is in a position of knowing better than the client in terms of product information, features of the product, and so on, all right? So therefore, is there any influence, or if I may use the word undue influence on the client? Particularly where the client is a vulnerable client, a illiterate client, so things like that. So this influence factor is important, right? What you tell the client and how the client respond and during the fact-find stage. So that is KPI, non-sales KPI number 1, understanding a client's needs. Right? Now, non-sales KPI 2 under Annex 1 is suitability of product recommendation. All right, this is similar to the earlier notice, where there is emphasis in terms of product suitability when you make recommendation. This is the notice on recommendation of product. All right. So this is to give, this balanced scorecard framework gives more emphasis, right? Puts in the process and procedures to make sure that a representative does the fact-find process. Make sure that the representative follows the sales advisory process, right? There are about 5 or 6 steps in the sales advisory process to make sure that the process is being followed. Right? So the non-sales KPI, the key performance indicator, is suitability of product recommendation. And it's just a repeat of what I've said earlier. A representative must have a reasonable basis for any recommendation made to a client and take into account client's financial objective, investment horizon, risk profile, financial situation, and any special particular circumstances and needs of a particular client. All right? So that's 2. Now, non-sales KPI 3 is adequacy of information disclosure. Now, this is again the standard of disclosure that I was talking about earlier. Clear, adequate, not false and misleading. So this is adequate. All right? So a representative must have highlighted, explained, and provided. Explain, as I said, always refer to talking, all right? Almost always, right? You must explain and you must, talk to the client to explain carefully, especially the legal terms, the jargon of a particular product, all right? If you need to use jargon or technical term, right? And of course, you can see there, bullet point 2, a representative must ensure that any statement or representation to the client is not false or misleading. Now, this is to adhere to the standards of clear, adequate, not false or misleading. All right, and then material information to be highlighted, explained, and so on. Not limited to the terms and conditions of the investment product, the benefits, the risks, the premium, the cost, expenses, investment horizon, and the like. All right. So therefore, you need to have adequate information disclosure. And of course, whether it's adequate or not is objectively determined. What a reasonable person will think, whether the information that you give is adequate or not. It's not from your perspective as a financial advisor representative. It is not a subjective test, as it were, all right? It will be an objective test if it comes to the crux, all right, where people have to see whether the information that you disclose is adequate or not. All right? All right? And you look at the non-sales KPI number 4, right? Then you will see that the standards of professionalism and ethical conduct. All right, it's a matter of ethics whether you're fair dealing or not in relation to the provision of financial advisory services. Right. All right. So the bullet point says a representative must provide financial advisory service in a professional and ethical manner. Right. So they emphasize on that, and must not engage in any unprofessional and unethical acts. All right. So what amount to unethical acts? All right. What amount to unprofessional acts? And then, of course, the next bullet point defined it for you. Unprofessional or unethical acts other than those under the non-sales KPI 1 to 2 refer to, now is similar to what we have talked about in terms of misconduct of a financial advisor representative, and it's repeated here. A, acts involving fraud, dishonesty, other offences of similar nature, misrepresentation, acts involving non-compliance with regulatory requirements or serious breach of the financial advisor's internal policy or code of conduct that leads to demotion, suspension, termination, and so on. All right. So here they are putting a lot of emphasis on it. They are putting a lot of meat into it. All right. And acts that generally infringes or impinges on the fitness and propriety of the representative set out in the guideline SGS01. This is an important guideline. Although it is a guideline, like I said earlier, if you breach this guideline, it has consequences. All right. On the one hand, we say the guidelines are our best practices. It must be our best practices. Right. But if you breach a guideline, it will have consequences like what is stated here. It has become a non-KPI 4. And therefore, if you breach it, it will affect your remuneration, right? The money you are going to make as a financial advisor representative. It will affect the commission that you earn as a financial advisor representative. All right. So that is in terms of the Annex 1. Okay. Now let's come back quickly to the definition bit at paragraph 2. We're still at the definition under chapter 5 of the so-called balanced scorecard framework. Okay. All right. So we have looked at non-sales key performance target, and you can we have gone through that at the Annex 1. Now then you cast your line down the page, percentage of total specified variable income. All right. So means the percentage of specified variable income determined based on the formula set out in footnote of the supervisor's grading table. We'll come to that later on. And then they look at post-transaction. Okay. Like, what does it mean as a post-transaction? In the case of a life policy, what is post-transaction? All right. So in the case of a life policy, when a policy is issued, a policy takes effect, all right, or the cover has commenced, whichever is the latest. All right. There are three things there. Either it's issued or takes effect when premium is paid, or when premium is not paid, then cover has commenced. In the case of other investment product, all right, the client's application for a transaction has been accepted by a product manufacturer. Okay. Then we'll come to about representative grading table later on. That's in 4.61. And then what's the meaning of sample transaction? We'll look at that later on. And a selected representative, there's a definition there. So if you are a selected representative, it means the representative has been assigned a balanced scorecard B or worse. All right, so they give you a score, grade B or worse under the balanced scorecard framework, consecutively for 2 calendar quarters. So the measurement is by every quarter. immediately preceding the measurement quarter. All right, so those are some of the definitions. All right, if you look down the page of where you can see a lot of definitions there. All right, we'll come to that as we go as we go along. All right. So those are the definitions under this particular notice. All right. So under the Balanced Scorecard Framework, notice FAA number 20. Now, quickly, let's look at paragraph 3. Now, this is the ISA. All right. So, what is the ISA? Now, the ISA is known as the Independent Sales Unit Audit. I'll read that again. I'll repeat that again. Sorry. Independent Sales Audit Unit. Now, this is a unit that will audit the sales of a particular financial advisor representative. Okay. Now, a financial advisor representative, in order to carry out this Balanced Scorecard Framework, shall have an ISA comprising of persons, A, who are independent of the financial advisory services unit of the financial advisor. All right, so you have a sales unit that market and distribute investment products or will provide financial advisory services regarding the designated products. All right, so your ISA must be independent. All right, as an audit unit, you must stand independent and report probably to the board of directors. All right, so you bypass the salespeople. All right, so that you will not be influenced by your bosses, as it were, who are the salespeople. All right, so you report direct to the chief executive officer or to the board of directors. All right, so this audit unit must be independent. Okay. And they do not directly or indirectly supervise or manage the conduct and performance of any representative or class of representatives of the financial advisor. All right, it is strictly independent. All right, so these are, as it were, the policemen. All right, so they will make sure that they are independent and they have the powers and they have given the necessary authority. All right, to audit the sales process, the sales of the financial advisor representative, and see they are competent. All right, they must be suitably qualified. They must have the experience. All right, competent refer to qualifications and experience and expertise in reviewing and assessing, underline the word, quality of the financial advisory processes, services given by the financial advisor representative, and compare that with the non-sales KPIs that we have looked at. And importantly, to determine if infractions have been committed by the representatives. All right. So this independent unit must be suitably empowered. All right, and staffed with competent and capable people who are independent of any sales people, and their duty mainly is to review and assess the quality. All right, it is not quantitative, it's not numbers, it is the quality of the services provided by the representatives. Right, and this quality must be matched up with the non-sales KPIs that we have looked at earlier under Annex 1. So a financial advisor needs to establish an independent sales unit, the ISA. Well, 3.12 provides the fact that a financial advisor may utilize his own compliance or risk management function to carry out the duties and the responsibilities of the ISA unit. Now, some of you may know that when you are in the legal or compliance or in risk management, these units are also independent of the sales people, all right? So they do not involve in the sales. They do not report to any sales person, no matter how high that salesperson is. They are independent, right? And essentially they report to the CEO or to the board, right? So a financial advisor, if the financial advisors wishes to save money, then you can use your own legal and compliance or risk management units to do this work, to carry out this work. Or you can outsource the responsibilities of the ISA to a third-party provider, all right, to a specialist company, all right, to an external auditor, as it were, an external party who can do this audit. If and only if, all right, its compliance or risk management function or the third party's provider, as the case may be, satisfy paragraphs 3.1.1. All right. So you look at 3.1.1. All right. Those are the requirements when you set out the ISA. It must be independent. It must not be directly or indirectly supervised or managed or be part, all right, of the sales process, right? And it must be competent, able to understand the rules and regulations governing this particular notice on the balance scorecard framework. All right. So you must have experience in balance scorecard. You must understand the non-sales KPIs, and you must be able to understand the workings of this particular notice. As I've said earlier, this is quite detailed and in a way quite mind-boggling if you are not into it, right? Primarily because it is technical, right? Alright, so if you want to outsource, you can do so, but make sure you comply with the requirements set up under 3.1.1. Okay. Now, 3.2 requirements of the ISA unit in relation to the balance scorecard framework. 3.21 reads, a financial advisor shall ensure that the ISA carries the post-transaction checks as set out in 4.41 and sample transactions in accordance with the sampling methodology in paragraph 4.42. Alright, as I've said, these are all quite technical. Alright, now you look at 4.41 and then 4.42. Alright, then you will appreciate, alright, what are the things that this ISA unit has to do. Now let's look at 4.41 and then 4.42 respectively, okay? Now look at 4.4, alright? I hope you are with me on the same page, 4.4. Alright, processes and methods for reviewing and assessing representatives' performance in his provision of financial advisor against non-sales target. Now 4.41 set out the details, alright? Alright, you can see there. Post-transaction checks by the ISA unit. The ISA unit has to carry out and complete the following checks called post-transaction checks on the sampled transactions in order to review and assess the quality of the financial advisory services by a representative by the end of the calendar year immediately subsequent to the measurement quarter. Alright, now quickly you look at the bottom of that page under subscript 1. They give an example there. For example, in relation to the transactions effected in the calendar quarter of 1st January to 31st March of 2016, or that period, the ISA must carry out and complete the post-transaction checks on every sample transaction by no later than the end of June 2016. Okay, so that is the requirement in terms of time frame. Alright, then they provide you with more details. Now, in respect of sample transactions which are rollovers of any dual currency investment or structure note relating to equities or commodities or such product as the MAS may approve on an exceptional basis, the ISA, underline this one, is to review all call logs. Review all call logs of conversations held with clients of every sample transaction. Alright, I just want to pause for a while. Now, that is in terms of the post-transaction check. Alright? Okay, now in respect of other sample transactions, alright, documentation review. The ISA must review all documents, including fact-finding, needs analysis, and basis of recommendation of every sample transaction. So you need to sample your transaction and do your analysis there. And then client survey. the ISA must conduct client surveys on every sample transaction. So this is quite technical and quite tedious. I mean, as with any audit function, you will realize that when you audit, you got to go into the nitty-gritty of things, right? So that's in terms of 4.41, right? 4.41. In terms of the processes and the methods for reviewing and assessing representatives' performance, right? Okay. Now 4.42, all right, refers to the sampling methodology, right? Now the ISA is to carry out up to 3 rounds of post-transaction checks for each representative for every calendar quarter. All right, and then subject to the paragraphs 4.4.23 and 4.4.24, it is to determine the population of the sampling using either of the following methods. All right, A, the historical average transaction count method. All right, based on the quarterly average transaction count of each representative over the past 12 months, immediately preceding the management quarter, or where the representative provided for less than 12 months over the past number of months immediately preceding the management quarter, which the representative provided financial advisor. So that's the methodology part. Or B, all right, the actual transaction count method. All right, based on the actual number of transactions affected in the measurement quarter. All right, and then you cast your eye down the chapter 4.4.2.3. All right, in terms of the actual transaction count method, in the population for sampling for any new representative who has provided the service for less than 3 months, or existing representative who has not effected any transaction in the past 12 months or less. So again, it is essentially mathematical and procedural, right? And 4.4.2 says if you're using sampling method, you should use the same method, all right, for sampling across your financial representatives. This is to be fair and consistent, all right, from quarter to quarter, right? And if the financial advisor should decide to vary the method in determining the population for sampling, it must notify the MAS for the reason for doing so, at least 7 days before you change the sampling methodology, right? Right. So those are some of the details, all right? And if you cast your eye down to page 4.4.26, they are talking about in any management quarter within the calendar quarter, you need to worry about first round of post-transaction checks and sample a minimum of 10% of the population of the sampling and so on. All right, and then across the page B, second round of post-transaction checks and the details thereunder, and the third round, if there's a third round of post-transaction checks, right? So again, if you were to go back to the 3.2.1, all right, they refer to post-transaction checks and the samples, right? All right. So this will give you a flavor, as it were, as to what this notice on the balance scorecard will entail. All right. I will go a bit slower as we move along. Now coming back to 3.2, we have done 3.21. Now then we look at 3.22, right? So a financial advisor shall require the ISA to submit reports of its audit of the quality of the financial advisors who are provided in every calendar quarter to either A, like I've said, the board and the chief executive of the financial advisor. All right. So as I said before, audit normally independent, and usually it reports to the board or the CEO of the financial advisor, or a business function or unit of the financial advisor which is independent from the financial advisory services unit of the financial advisor by the end of 2 quarters calendar immediately subsequent to the management quarter. Or the CEO or the board, all right, the board or the CEO can designate a separate independent unit, all right, that performs this function, all right, so that they are independent of any sales unit, as it were. Okay, so generally, for For audit purposes, they will report to an audit committee, as it were, the ISA, set up specially for this balanced scorecard audit. All right, it must be well staffed with qualified people and so on. And at the end of the day, this audit report, usually will be submitted to the board, all right, or the CEO for the board's review. All right.